Just because the mind is saying something doesn't mean it's right. Even when the thought pops up, just because the thought is popping up doesn't mean it's real. It only becomes more real if you start to nourish that thought now even more.
In this episode of Insights at the Edge, my guest is Master Shi Heng Yi. Master Shi Heng Yi is a 35th generation Shaolin master and the founder and headmaster of the Shaolin Temple Europe in Germany. He teaches a blend of traditional Kung Fu, Zen Buddhism, and practical wisdom for modern life. I'm really excited to talk with him. He was born and raised in Germany and is the son of Vietnamese immigrants who left to make a better path for their children. He started martial arts training at the age of 4, developing a deep understanding of the mind-body connection, and now focuses on making Shaolin teachings and practices widely accessible. He's the author of the book Shaolin Spirit, The Way to Self-Mastery. Master Shi Heng Yi, welcome.
Yes, dear Mrs. Simon, thank you very much for this nice introduction. Yes.
Wonderful. New friendship forming right here. Tell me what you mean by self-mastery.
Okay. It literally means, to simplify it really, to stop pointing the finger outwards from you if something in your life is not going in the way of how you imagine things to go. Taking accountability, taking responsibility, and taking everything back to yourself, let's call it like this, and work on the things that you really can change, and at the same time learn to accept what is it that you cannot change. And ultimately that means to master yourself. That's the only thing that, at least in my perspective, more and more I come up as a conclusion. There is nothing else than what you are doing with yourself, how you are treating your body, how you are treating your mind, and what is it that you are cultivating inside of you in terms of expectations, in terms of perspective, looking into the world. So literally it means what I can change about this world, I need to change inside myself. And this is the reason why self-mastery, it's all about, I wouldn't like to call it optimizing yourself. I actually would rather call it discovering yourself, or finding what actually all the time has already been there, but we just used to start looking on the outside because from the education maybe this is what we have learned, that there's always something to look for on the outside of us.
What I really appreciated you saying was mastering and taking responsibility for what we can control, and then accepting, this is what I heard you say, what we can't accept. What in your life have you had to accept? Like, I just have to accept this. This is not a place where I can make it different.
I mean, especially now that you mentioned, for example, the temple that I built up for many, many years. And just one of the illusions at some point for me was that I'm doing it out of a noble reason, in order to just share this knowledge for people so that they can also benefit from it. On the one side, physically benefit, and on the other side, also mentally benefit. And so I thought I'm doing something good only. And at some point, it became really also disturbing for me. How come that you still, no matter what you do, there will always be someone, there will always be people who will always find a reason in order not to like you or what you are doing. Yes. And this is, for example, one of the things, just to accept the fact that every type of, however you call it, every type of light always carries a shadow with it. So there's nothing which is ultimately only positive. You will always face both sides until you maybe realize for yourself and observe they always come in a double pack. Just like I mentioned many times before, I do feel like every success comes because of a lot of failures along the way. And wherever the sun rises here on this earth, at the same time, the sun is going down on another part of the earth. So that means things are not separate from each other. They sometimes are only very subjective.
Thank you. And I think part of the reason I wanted to focus on this notion of self-mastery and the idea that there are certain things that are outside of our ability to impact that is that I think sometimes when people hear that idea, they think they're gonna be in charge all the time of everything, and then there's disappointment and grief and, despair, and I wonder if you could share how you work with the disappointment or grief or despair when it arises in your experience?
So, first of all, please let me say this beforehand already. Now, in the introduction, you said, for example, that I'm teaching, let's say, Zen Buddhism. I really have to correct that and say to myself, actually, I'm still on the path, or I'm still like, if you would like to call it like this, trying to actually find out, trying to learn to discern what is, let's call it, what is real and what is, for example, made up. And what has guided me in all these years very, very much is to literally ask myself, who is it actually that can grieve? Why is it? To who does the grief, for example, to who does it appear? And you mentioned the word at the same time now, self. Just like I said, self mastery. Now, from my understanding, there are two terms that we need to maybe identify first of all. Number one is when we talk about the self, and the second one is when we talk about the persona, or let's call it the role. My assumption right now, could be wrong, but this is my assumption, is that the majority of people living right now, we identify ourselves very, very much with the persona or with the roles that we are playing in this human body form. So that means an Asian descendant. My parents came from Vietnam. I was born in Germany. I studied this. Then, with the age of 4, I started practicing martial arts. Meanwhile, I became somehow the headmaster of the Shaolin Temple Europe, which at the same time also already has been passed on to the next generation already. So, this is, for example, right now, this is the role. This is the persona that has been created throughout the last 38 years. And the interesting thought for me was, prior of attaining any title, any position, or any role that you are playing, the main question for me is who or what is it actually that is taking these roles? And as an example, what do I mean exactly? It's literally when we say this is my house, this is my car, this is my job, this is my body. Every time when you say this is my, the question is who is the me? So when I turn this around, your body, your house, your job, this is everything. This is all something that belongs to you. But who is the you? And turning this around, so this is actually the question, with what are you identifying yourself while walking through this lifetime? And I just discover, in a way for myself, if there is somebody who suffers, if there is somebody who can grieve, it always is the persona or it is the role that does it. And yes,
Well, first of all, thank you for taking us right to the heart of the matter here at the beginning of our conversation with this inquiry, who or what am I, and who or what are you? When you sit with that as a meditative question, you're not the role. What do you come up with?
this is meanwhile, I have really come to the point, and I understand also why in many ancient traditions it's extremely difficult to talk about it because it is not understandable. Yeah, because this, yeah, so really to make it very clear, I don't regard myself awakened, I don't regard myself enlightened, nothing like this. I just regard myself at the moment still also figuring out the riddles of this universe, if you want to call it like this. And you know, it's like every time we judge, every time we discern something, we are already finding ourselves in the realm of separation. So even when I start t- to describe something, it's like by using my words, I'm already separating the wholeness by trying to describe it with a concept, which simply cannot be it. Let's call it like this. And this is why I find it more and more difficult to really talk about what is it, because I also don't want to like misguide people in actually giving them new concepts, because what we are trying to point at, what we're trying to, maybe you call it rediscover or to find, it is nothing that can be put into words. It's nothing that can be put into an idea or a concept. And so this is where I also understand why many of the masters in the past and also recent masters that are teaching me are constantly telling me, until you have that experience fully, 100% for yourself and have experienced it for yourself, it is extremely misleading to even try the attempt to talk about it. Yeah, and this is right now really the difficulty when we enter into this realm of spirituality, because yeah, and what does that spirituality mean? We are dealing with spirit. We are dealing with something that is apparently not in the realm of physicality. Physicality meaning having a form, having something that can be seen, having something that has a shape. But spirituality is formless, shapeless. So there is nothing to even, there's nothing that could even describe it. This is what makes it really difficult, honestly, to stay in that realm and to speak about it.
Well, I really appreciate your non-answer answer very much. I am new to the Shaolin warrior way. My exposure to you is my first exposure to this tradition. And there were several things that struck me, and I thought, whoa, I need to understand this more. And one was the definition of a Shaolin warrior is someone who can fight like a demon but with a heart of a Buddha. And I thought that's really interesting, those two things combined. And mostly in my life, I know people who can fight like demons, and I know people who seem to, at least much of the time, have the heart of a Buddha. But having them both together, and that's what I'd like to hear and learn more about to understand that more.
Yes. So there are certainly many different interpretations of exactly this term, but I can just share with you the one how I
Mhm.
view it for myself. Regardless of any spirituality that we have in this world, apparently it seems like right now we still have this form, we have this body, we have it for a limited lifetime. So, in my interpretation, it's like this. Even if everything would be spiritual, the fact right now for me is that I still have a very high sensation for my body, let's say. And so, naturally, if I regard this now as a gift that has been given to me, a gift for a limited lifetime, so I can walk on this earth carrying this around, number one is I need to be able to take care of this. So, taking care of this means that I nourish it well, maybe I train it well, depending, of course, what your emphasis and what your own goals maybe are with this body on this earth. And speaking purely right now in the field of martial arts, because this is one very essential point inside the Shaolin tradition. This is what Shaolin until today is known for, is that the martial art practice is quite a way of life, meaning it follows us throughout our whole life, meaning the practice of martial arts. So it's purely physical training in order to strengthen our body, in order to get us more flexible, get us faster, get us more resilient. These are all physical features. So, but the special thing when we talk about Shaolin tradition is that it's not actually only about martial arts and physicality. The special thing is that all of this, yeah, in the past has been developed and also trained primarily inside an environment that we call a temple. So now a temple usually is everything beyond physicality. In a temple, you usually, regardless of which tradition, in a temple, you usually find the how would you say the spiritual people, the ones that are dealing with the mind, that ones that are dealing maybe with what you would call consciousness, the ones that would be dealing with something that to the normal physical world or with our eyes the majority of people do not perceive. And the special thing now about Shaolin again is this combination. We have the very, very physical area. Then at the same time, we have the area related to the temple, more precisely related to what nowadays is known as Zen Buddhism, a spiritual character and spiritual aspect to all of this. So, and to put this now in context, just because you know how to work with your body, and just because your body is able to deliver a lot of performance, it doesn't mean you are able to handle your emotions. It doesn't mean you understand what impact the mind has on yourself. So, this is the reason why we say we train our body on the one side, and we have another area that literally is training our mind, which then is related to our emotional states and therefore also related to the heart. And what is the most peaceful and pleasant state of the heart? Actually, I said it already: peaceful and loving. Peaceful and loving, all encompassing, which means your heart has the quality to embrace quite a lot of things. If the heart is separated, or if the heart is, let's say, sinking in terms of separation, again, we are finding ourselves in the world of separation, which means there is conflict. But when we point towards the heart, this is also where in many traditions it's related to the idea of love, and love simply spreads everywhere, similar like the picture of the sun. Doesn't matter who it is, the sun shines equally for everyone. And this is that inner quality related to the heart. So you can fight and you can defend and you can be in physical conflict on the one side, but the quality that you also possess, you can also have or sense that everything is connected and everything belongs together.
I'm immensely inspired listening to you speak. It's really beautiful. It's like beautiful music. I'm going to track back a little bit. And when I asked you this question, you said, I'm here with this physical body, and this body is a gift. And the moment you said that, I thought a lot comes after that once you recognize that it's a gift to be here in a physical body. But what about that person who says, I feel like it's a prison. I feel imprisoned being here in this body. What would you say to somebody who has that kind of response?
I can't say that this person said something wrong, because in a way you could regard it as this. And the prison for the human being normally is an average of 100 years. So there is definitely, because of us possessing now or feeling being trapped inside this body, this is why it can be, depending on your perspective upon life, and also depending on what is it that this body or this persona went through, it can definitely feel like it is a prison. So that statement by itself, I would say, yes, is true. But nevertheless, now the question is, do you just want to accept it like this? And yeah, just accept it like this? Or do you want to find an alternative perspective where you still keep this, how I say, keep this insight that you have, but still transcend it? There are two aspects. If there is physical, there is non-physical at the same time. If somebody says this body is a prison, which, yeah, like I said, which is true, but you can either stay in that mindset or you can transcend it and still continue while having this body. And this is for me the point where all these ideas, or the inquiry to figure out, is there something more than what meets the eye. This is the point. Why it has such a tremendous power to liberate yourself. Because this is what I would call the whole purpose yeah, in learning or trying to discover new traditions or trying to decipher what did the old masters and grandmasters and teachers of the past, what is it they wanted to pass on to us? The liberation.
You use this word when you teach sometimes, elevation. And I thought I want to understand more what Master Shi Heng Yi means by elevation. And maybe you could talk about it in the context even that we're describing of how we relate to our 100 years here.
Elevation carries a quality when I use it, and it is the quality that something is getting lighter. So elevation means something is like starting to float, something is starting to move upwards. Now, in our 3D world, when we talk about elevation, that means it is something that maybe once was stuck or is standing right now here, but slowly, slowly it starts to become lighter. So if we use these terms, there are two directions. Whether something is becoming lighter or something is becoming more heavy in terms of this whole life, this whole existence feels like a burden to you. Every day waking up feels like a heaviness to you. You're feeling stuck, you're feeling you're moving nowhere, you're feeling like life is heavy. So we have these two directions. And now, one main idea in this lifetime is actually to figure out for yourself which thoughts and which actions, which way of life, and which perspective that you can, for example, take. Where is it heading towards? What is the result of all of your actions, of all of the things that you are thinking about, talking about? Whether they start to make you become more heavy or they are starting to elevate you. And the extreme of elevation, I would say it's extreme lightness. And what is it that is extreme lightness? Well, it's light. Light in both ways. Light in terms of the shining light, or light in terms of there is no substance to it. That's why it is free. It is free of matter. It is free of anything that's stuck on you. Meaning, it is free of any type of grasping or holding on to anything. This is why things become light in life. Yeah. Practically speaking, the more you are attached, the more people are attached to anything, the more heavy they are. Because all of the attachment means it's like you're stuck to something. You're stuck to something that you won't take with you no matter what. And this is the reason again why that word elevation or transcending or lightness or non-grasping, non-attachment, how these terms describe a very similar quality, I would say. And I just regard, after walking through this lifetime so far, that it's an essential part to learn in this lifetime.
One of the things I'm sensing, and I'd love to know if you think this is true or not, or if I'm projecting, is that by the way you're answering my questions, I have the sense that you understand suffering, that you've touched it, you've had it in your life, heaviness, hard times, dark, like, you know it. It's something that and that you have found this way through to find greater lightness and elevation from your own experience. And I'd love to hear more about that, and maybe an experience or a time of heaviness and darkness, and how the finding of your way through personally informs now how you teach.
So, yeah, first of all, thank you very much for this acknowledgement. There was a time when I actually wasn't teaching anything to the public yet. But when the time came, which was around the year 2011, there was always one guideline that I kept for myself when it came to sharing something or teaching something, which was I can only share, I can only teach if I have it. So, meaning I cannot pass on any solution to anyone if I haven't experienced the success, let's say, of this solution in my own life. And that made it actually very, very simple and easy for me in terms of, do I normally prepare myself for any interview or podcast? I usually don't prepare myself because I only answer actually questions where I have an answer. If you would ask me something I have no experience on, I would absolutely refrain from making something up just to give you an answer. So, and that meaning, or that being said, first of all, every human being goes through different types of suffering in this lifetime. And same, I would say, also goes for me. And at some point, when some cycles or some patterns start to always repeat themselves, at some point, it's also like I'm asking myself, it feels like I have been there already. I have been in that cycle of suffering already. I know it from somewhere. And it just takes sometimes a few cycles, a few repetitions until hopefully that insight pops up. There must be a way out of this. And this is literally the beginning of what, for many people nowadays, I would say, is that spiritual search. All of the searching for an answer, the searching for an alternative way, the search for, did I miss something in my life? What is it that I have overseen? Mostly these moments come after a lot of suffering. So, this is the general outline. How do I view suffering in this lifetime? It means you are finding yourself in a state that very, very obviously is very unpleasant to you. And if that heaviness becomes just too much, ultimately, the little light, the little hope, or that little faith starts to shine through. And this is where then the search begins. And this type of cycles right now, I had quite a few of them in my lifetime. And just to show, for example, that it all goes hand in hand. In 2011, after I finished about, how many years was it? I think almost that time it was almost 18 years of academic education. In 2011, I started returning back to Germany and then starting to actually build up what nowadays is known as the Shaolin Temple Europe. And of course, a lot of effort, a lot of discipline, a lot of work went into building up this temple. And on the one side, slowly it started to also become successful, I would say, in a way. The temple became worldwide known. The persona, let's say, that I created became worldwide known. But at the same time, also, I felt at some point, and this was now maybe about 3 or 4 years ago, I felt like hitting some type of a plateau, which means I knew already if I would like to make more workshops, I could do it. If I would like to make more TV productions, I could do it. And at the same time, having all these followers and having all the people that are looking up to that persona also made me realize something. They are in resonance with the persona. They are in resonance with the character that I have created, let's say, in a way, in the public space. But that also meant that sometimes when I was traveling and found myself like just at the airport, even wearing, for example, these type of glasses, that people couldn't discern anymore and started to project something into me that I am simply not only. It doesn't mean that Shi Heng Yi, the persona of the Shaolin representant, that it is fake or that it's unreal. No, it is the role, it is the persona in order to share with the people the Shaolin knowledge that I find useful for myself. But when I talk about myself is not Shi Heng Yi. Shi Heng Yi is one part of me that I embodied in order to be physically strong and at the same time also to get into touch with the Buddhist teachings. This is what Shi Heng Yi, this persona, brought also into my life, let's say. And this is already like the important part to hear out. So Shi Heng Yi, this is the persona, this is the role. But everybody walking through this lifetime in different life circumstances, in different environments, you usually also have a different role, a different contextual role that you're playing. With your parents, you will always be the child, no matter what. Doesn't matter if you're the CEO of a big corporation, for your parents, you'll always be the child. And so this is one area that ultimately led to this feeling of suffering also inside of me. The recognition that people are not seeing me actually for what I am. They are seeing me what they are projecting upon me based on what they have, let's say, been exposed to. And so ultimately, what is this suffering mean? It is a crisis of identity. Let's call it like this. Of not knowing who are you actually now. What is this all about? And then literally feeling or seeing how so much of the life is based upon this persona. Yes. But I mean, meanwhile, maybe through your research, then you also knew, and I think this has been the biggest change in my life, that I like became a father in 2024. And so, of course, for me, it meant the way and the amount of time and energy that I invested and nourished this persona, Master Shi Heng Yi. It's very natural to me that I can't keep up anymore in the same amount of how I used to do this in the last 20 or 25 years. So now a lot of my energy, a lot of my time and awareness goes into the role of being a father to my son. Yes. So, and this is, of course, also like a shift of priority, you might call it like this, but it is also a shift of identity, of course.
So, what I hear you saying is that in releasing identification with any role and elevating out of taking on other people's projections of the role or anything like that, there's this potential for lightness. And what I'd like to hear more about, because you said it actually is a feeling of literal light, not the same density in matter. And I'd like to know what that feels like for you, if you could describe it. Like, take me into the light right now with you, us together. Let's go.
Okay. Staying, okay. Staying in the separate, staying in the world of separation right now could mean that you are very clear for yourself that you are sitting in the US right now, looking at the screen and knowing that there is Shi Heng Yi on the other side of the earth doing something else. So there is a very clear separation. You are there and I am here. This is the one perspective of how we right now could continue with this talk. This is the one perspective. But the other thing is if you would actually just realize or just try that what you are seeing on your screen right now, take away that there is another country, take away that this is a technology that somehow is streaming this video onto your screen. The reality of your experience right now is just what is right now in front of your eyes. So you remove the thinking. It's just what is there in that very moment right now. So you just realize things, but you don't add anything on top of it. The realization of this is, yeah, I don't know how else to say it, but this is it. Now, one of my masters, he just said like this. He used to say, what you are seeing right now, even me being on your podcast right now, this is your dream right now. I am appearing in your dream. This is all you're doing right now. So similar, like you literally appearing right now on my awareness, on my screen. This is my dream. But the truth is you are here. Why? I don't know why. Yes. And so this lightness, I would say, has two qualities, for example. There is no past and there is no future. This is one of them. You are literally in full acceptance of what you are finding yourself in right now. There is no additional thought of you would like to be anywhere else or things could be different. It is the full acceptance of this is it. So no matter how far we have come or you have come in this lifetime in terms of mental, spiritual development, it brought you to this moment. So that's it. Right now, this is how the truth and the reality looks like. Just like this. So there is no comparison between past and future. This is the one thing. And there is no wishing that this moment should be different. So literally, it's very, very present. You're present, and it's just this little, this astonishment, this curiosity at the same time of, yeah, okay, that's it.
Thank you. And I'd love to know how that, I'm going to call it the Shaolin perspective shift, how that shifting, how that comes into play in the physical practices you do, if it does. So for example, and I have to bring this up, I've seen you do these videos where you crush through a brick with your raw, bare hand. And I don't know if there are other amazing things like that you do in your
Oh, yes.
Oh yes, sure. I'd be curious what they
Oh,
are. But
yes.
what's going on in terms? What are you doing internally as you do that
Okay.
act?
Now, what was very, very helpful and useful for me when it came to the Shaolin practices is let me just show you, yeah, then maybe it's
Cool.
even more easier to understand. So let's just say my teacher in the past would show me today we are learning a new way of movement. And that movement would be like this. So it's just like you would call it a back fist. Yeah, it's a back fist. So in the very beginning, I would look at my teacher, look at my master, and I would like copy it. So I would literally say, okay, first the arm must go in, then a little bit up, and then out. So, but after some time, when you when you start to continuously do that one movement all the time, you will realize that it's not thinking anymore. It's not thinking about the movement that does the movement because it starts to become so natural that you even would say that you are you are feeling the movement. So it's not that I say, okay, arm in, arm out, arm up. This is just the beginning. But because of the repetitive movement, then something starts to happen where we say the movement and the body become one. If the movement and the body become one, that means you become the movement. In the moment where this like starts to happen, you become the movement. This is the moment where you literally forget about yourself, where you forget about your body. Yeah, and the interesting part is that this is not just happening in the field of martial arts or through the practice of the Shaolin arts. Every time that we are doing something that is always somehow, let's say, monotonous, I think you would call it. Yeah, it's monotonous. At some point, it is so monotonous that you become one with whatever you're doing there, and there is no thinking anymore. And exactly this part is the very, very helpful area where now somebody is interested in understanding what is this one becoming one? What's the benefit of becoming one? Well, the benefit of becoming one is if there's one, that means you're not in the world of two. And the world of two is the world of conflict because we have two, the world of separation. So, and this is the reason why maybe nowadays many people, once they start to practice the martial arts and start to get a little bit this understanding about that the movement, that you can do something and then you become this movement, why it really calms the whole nervous system and gives you a balance for all other areas in your life where people maybe still feel extremely anxious about or extremely stressed about. Why? Because they are trapped in the body. And so learning through movement, and this is what essentially has been the key or the point that I always try to share with the world. Using the body to enter and discover a perspective about yourself which is beyond the body. Discovering something beyond the body, but through the body. That is it.
Let me ask a very beginner let me ask a very beginner question here, which has to do with when pain arises and you're trying, like, okay, so for example, I was reading your book, Shaolin Spirit, and I thought, Tami, try one of the practices. And I thought, oh, I'll try the horse stance, the ma bu stance. I've seen
Yes,
people do
wonderful.
that. I know how to do that. Let's do that. So I'm doing it in about the, embarrassingly so, not very many minutes of holding it. I was like, ow, this is painful. I want to stop. But I said I was going to do it for longer. So I'm going to keep going. No, I want to stop. I wonder what Master Shi Heng Yi is going to say to people who start feeling that burning pain. What do I do now?
Number one is this is the right chance to literally challenge yourself, meaning just find out for yourself in a, let's say, in a playful way, how much discipline, how much can you handle your mind? Because exactly what you have described, this is the mind talking. Just because the mind is saying something doesn't mean it's right. This is also an essential part to realize. Just because our mind comes up with whatever ideas throughout the day, meaning even when the thought pops up, just because the thought is popping up doesn't mean it's real. It only becomes more real if you start to nourish that thought now even more. And this Mabu exercise is, for example, a very, very good exercise. Meaning, if we would do this practice together and you would stay in the Mabu, I know what goes on in your mind. Nevertheless, I would try to still encourage you in a nice way for you to actually that withstand that temptation of giving up, even if it's only 2 minutes longer than your mind was running already saying, I want to give up. And then you have it right, then you see the truth right in front of your eyes. 2 minutes ago, your mind said, I can't do it anymore. I need to give up. But together with somebody who encouraged you, you still made it 2 minutes longer. So the point is now, first of all, how much truth was it that the mind was saying? There was no truth to it. It is just a question of how much are you able to withstand the pressure of the mind. This is the one area that can be trained with this stance. So it is a mind practice, number one. A second area, this is now maybe you would regard it as a physical feat or a physical ability, but especially when the thighs are starting to burn, which happens in the Mabu very often. Now, another thing that we can practice is to refine ourselves, to become more fine for our own body, and by doing so, releasing actually the tension that you feel is trapped in your thighs. Meaning to practice and release tension from your physical body. This is also a reason to practice this Mabu, for example. I make it now, I exaggerate, but if my shoulders, if I would like sit like this, it's very obvious to you that my shoulders are tense. So you would tell me, relax. Okay, so now they are relaxed again. But this type of relaxation, or let's better call it this this type of releasing of the shoulders right now, it's very, very much on the surface level only. So what I'm saying is, even if on the outside it looks like I am released, like I am relaxed in a way, but the question is internally, even until your organ level, how much of this release, internal release, can you sense actually inside of your own body? And this is what also is being practiced by this Mabu, by the horse stance, for example, because the thighs, they are really, really tense. because of the gravity of the position, the center of gravity of the position, but still, while standing there, we are trying to still release the muscles. So it is also a type of refining the way how you are sensing your own physical body. Refinement on the one side and mind practice on the other side. This is all inside this one practice, the marble.
Now, when I said to you that I've seen these videos where you've cut through bricks, and I said, is that just one of the many kind of cool feats you can accomplish? And you said, yeah, of course, and I was like, okay, what are the other ones? I can't help it. It's fascinating.
Yes, I mean, of course, all these breaking the bricks and putting the spear on the throat and all this very highly skilled acrobatics and all these skills, this is what, to a big part, has made Shaolin also famous in all these decades, I would say, because it is very quickly something, they can do something differently. So this is like the one thing. It's very attractive to the eye. But the other truth is also like this. Just because something is attractive doesn't mean it's good. Yeah, just because something is attractive doesn't mean it's functional. Just because something is beautiful doesn't mean it's necessarily life benefiting for you. So this is like important maybe to really keep in the mind. It's just that thanks to all of these physical skills that in the past all the Shaolin representatives were displaying and sharing with the world, thanks to this, I do feel that many people also started to realize the connection to that other part where actually Shaolin is derived from, which we named all the time as the mind practice or the heart practice or the cultivation of, yes, the Buddha heart, the connected being, the unified being, the one, the one, the one with no separation. So this is the value where I would say why until today it is a very, very nice tradition, yeah, that I still feel is for many years going to benefit many people if you understand it exactly like this. It's not just about like how beautiful things look like, because I mean people from the Cirque du Soleil, they are also like extremely skillful, or professional dancers. They also have beautiful, beautiful, flowing and skillful movements. Yes, but that is the thing. It's not just about how something looks on the outside. It is especially how does this life feel for you on the inside. And that is the area where people are going to move towards.
Just one final topic I'd love to talk about, which has to do with women in the Shaolin tradition. Do you train female students? Have you seen female masters work in the tradition? I haven't heard much about this.
So, so first of all, in the Shaolin Temple Europe, where we usually organize these retreats or workshops, the only thing that we are taking care of is that the accommodation is women only or men only. So that means they're separate. We don't mix genders as such, but we do not exclude anyone. So this path of learning to how do I refine my body, how do I learn more about this tradition, it's absolutely free to everyone. And traditionally, even in China now, there are monasteries and there are also temples where you exclusively have either men, which is the Shaolin temple still, and there are also temples where you only have female. So probably in China itself, it's handled a little bit more strict still than in other parts of the world, because most of the time, regardless which city or which country it is, if you see a Shaolin school or a Shaolin temple, normally everybody is welcome equally. So there is no separation as such anymore.
Okay. And it appears from the outside, when I think of Shaolin warrior training, as it being very much a sort of yang path. Very, I guess I would call it masculine, lots of perseverance, commitment, strength training, repetition. And yet I know that there's a balance of yin and yang in the Shaolin way. And I wonder if you can speak to what the yin component is. And we'll end with this part of our conversation.
Yes. There, I would just say we have two layers. One, like I said before, that pure martial art area when it's all about the body, the physicality. This is already something you could regard as this is very much yang driven. Yeah, that very physical area. The generation of fire, the generation of doing, the building up, the attaining something, this is that yang part. But then we also have the part of, let's call it, the letting go, the releasing, not playing roles and games anymore, the being part, the meditative part, the inner work. This is where I would say this is the yin part, seeing on a big scale. So the second layer is that even inside the physical area that I before described as outgoing, 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 but every highly skilled martial artist who practiced this for a long time, they know even this area has also a yin aspect to it as well. There is a lot of internal or inner work happening simultaneously, while on the outside, all these physical abilities are being seen or are being expressed. So literally the truth is, in a way, yin and yang, they cannot be separated from each other. Just sometimes depending on with what type of perspective and eye you look at the things, you might not be able to see it, but it is certainly like this, that both are involved.
I've been speaking with Master Shi Heng Yi. I hope I get to meet you in person sometime, and this is not the only conversation we will have in the now, but that there'll be some future now, some future dream where it's a good dream to be with you. That's what I would say. It's a beautiful dream. He's the author of the book Shaolin Spirit, The Way to Self-Mastery, and the founder of the Shaolin Temple Europe in Germany. Good luck with being a new dad. I'm sure family's very lucky to have your full presence in that. Good luck with it.
Thank you very much for this very pleasant conversation, and sending all my wishes and best blessings to all of you. Thank you very much.